Welcome back to Morgan's video blog, Morgan's online blog in video format. Today I'm here to talk about my 2021 resolutions. Now that we are firmly into January, it is time to determine what my goals for the year are. So last year was intended to be a year of querying / submitting, revision, and networking. Thusly, I listed my goals as such. First, obviously, revision. Secondly, shockingly, querying and submitting. Third, blogging and vlogging. 4, reading. 5, writing, all the way down on the list. 6 was beta reading, and 7 were conventions. As I shared last week, I did great on everything on that list except for revisions and querying. You know, the parts of the list that actually get me closer to publication. Does anyone else see a problem here? This year, my focus is on writing, revisions, and querying / submitting. So, as always, I like to set SMART goals, SMART, not necessarily intelligent goals. S for specific, you'll see numbers and dates. Secondly, measurable, you'll see numbers and dates. Thirdly, achievable. I set goals for things that I actually have influence over. While I'm aiming for an agent and getting stuff published, I'm not self-publishing, so all I can control is the querying and submitting aspect. R is for relevant. I'm keeping my exercise goals and healthy eating off this post. These are all about my writing, and the relevance should be clear. And T is for time sensitive. Obviously, these are intended to be completed within 2021, but some items may have specific dates associated. So let's take last year's list and put it in a new priority order. So let's see. Goal number 1, for the first time in way too long, is writing. Actually writing new words. Goal 1 is to finish my NaNoWriMo space fantasy, preferably by April, at least the rough draft. I'm not sure if I want to do OctoPoWriMo again, writing a poem a day for all of October. I skipped last year, but I really do like participating in it, and NaNoWriMo, writing 50,000 words in November. If I'm really stumped in November, I'll rebel and revise either 5 shorts or a full manuscript because I have a huge backlog. But knowing me, I'll probably make new words. Speaking of that rebelling, goal number 2 is revising. I managed last year's goals to finish my revisions before Balticon, and then was query shy in the wake of the 2020 querying climate, and I did manage to at least edit my middle grade fantasy, even if I didn't really revise it, but I didn't touch any of my shorts. Remembering, of course, that rewriting is writing, this makes revision half of my writing goals, but the final goal is publication, and I've got 4 manuscripts, 21 short stories, and 30 plus poems just waiting at home. So much to polish. This year's goals: revise 3 of those short stories that I drafted during my Nano of Shorts back in 2019. And, well, that's for another item on this list. So let's not get ahead of ourselves. Okay, goal number 3 is shock of shocks, querying and submitting. I know, I talk a lot about the differences between querying and submitting, but basically one is to get an agent to sell your book, and the other is to publishers to buy your stories. Typically, writers submit their own short stories, but publishers usually want agents to submit full-length novels or manuscripts, at least traditional publishers. Querying is an intro letter and usually the first chapter or so that you send to a literary agent. And once you have an agent, they often make you do revisions before submitting your work to a publishing house. Once you've queried or submitted to an agent or publishing house, you're not supposed to do it again with that same story. Submitting a manuscript short story poem is what you can do to any editor or publisher who's open to it. Publishers who are open to unagented works, literary magazines, anthologies, etc. This year, for my short stories and poetry, I'm going to try to actively submit at least 6 short stories to at least 3 markets each. Plus, at least the first round of submissions needs to be out by March for the stuff that's already polished. I mean, really, find a market, submit. That's what thegrinder.diabolical plots is for. So, goals number 4, blogging, vlogging, /podcast. You are my supporters, my community, my friends. You cheer me on and you watch me as I learn and grow. And as always, vlogging and podcasting helps keep me out there, helps keep me accountable, and gives me a way to give back to the community. Plus, I haven't missed a week on my blog since February of 2016, although I have done a couple reruns, nor a vlog post since I started vlogging on June 27th in 2017, even if I was shouting into the void, nor a podcast since I started in August of 2020. We all know I hate ending a streak, so get used to seeing new writing tips and writerly musings every week. I obviously have started a podcast and a weekly live stream write-in. I plan on taking a week or so off between podcast sessions and no more than 1 live stream off per quarter unless I am double booked with a convention. So, goal number 5, speaking of conventions and writer groups. My goals here are numerous. To panel at 3 or more conventions, to attend 6+ open mic nights, 4+ monthly writer meetings, and at least 3 NaNoWriMo events. Kick off a writer and probably the all-nighter till at least 11. Plus, staff Balticon and maybe another virtual con or 2. RavenCon accepted me as a panelist last year and was canceled and just pushed out the dates to this year. And I'm already staff and panelist for Balticon again in May. And if everything works out, Worldcon in Washington, D.C. My panels last year were well received, and I'm pretty sure I'm accepted back at all of them. I need to double check. All of my panels were topics from this blog that I feel I can talk competently on, where my unpublished perspective won't be a detriment to my assuming authority on the subject. Plus, I'm running social media for Balticon's parent group, so there's another time suck. In case you're wondering, what does being on panels net me? Why do I even want to do this? Well, first, it's a greater reach for my blog/vlog/podcast that's supposed to, according to, the authorities, lead to a larger audience when I do get published. But honestly, it's a great way to network and meet more writers and readers who like the same stuff I do. Plus, it's a chance to talk about all the stuff I obsess over on my blog and my vlog and my podcast in person with actual people, or at least virtually in person, But Morgan, how does attending conventions count as a writing goal? Isn't it just fun or part of your social media addiction? Well, if you've been following me for any amount of time, you may have noticed that over half of my content is actually write ups from notes at panels, at convention panels. I attend those panels and share my notes for those who can't or don't. Also, my sister basically teases me that I act like a teacher who's trying to get recertified in one weekend by attending 30 plus hours of panels in 4 days. And, well, I talked about it in my post on attending conventions, but of course there's the networking aspect. The science fiction and fantasy conventions are that I typically prefer are less commercial and are typically very full of readers, writers, and sometimes publishers and agents. So that's definitely something that goes into it. Although this year was a bit more of a time suck than I'd intended. So goal number 6 is reading. If you want to write, you need to read and be read up in your market. Thanks to this year being what it was, I managed to read 46 books, with 35 of them being physical, and nearly all of those actually from the to read pile that moved into this house with me like 2 years ago. So this year I am upping my goal from the 26 I trumped the last 2 years to 36 books. My goal is 3 a month. It's less than I've achieved, but you never know how busy the year is going to be. Plus, half of these need to be physical and already on my to-read bookcase, because my bookcase doesn't fit all my books. And goal number 7 is beta reading. This year, again, I'm going to try to not read more than 3 full manuscripts for others. I will need the short stories I'm prepping for publication beta read. As always, I like to keep my beta reader pool to no more than 8 readers. For short stories, maybe 2 or 3. But I do like to get people from different backgrounds. I like to give them separate copies so that their feedback won't influence each other. So I've talked a lot about my beta reading technique. And I am still a contributing editor to the Oddville Press, an online literary magazine of odd but not really fantastic tales, so not quite what I typically write. And that's it. 7 goals. Like it's that light. In summary, this year I'm starting off, unlike my previous years, with my focus on actually drafting words, not revision. But I do plan to do a lot of querying and submitting. The middle of my year is probably going to be pretty convention heavy, but October, November, I should be back in the writer's seat. Plus, of course, I'll be reading and blogging and vlogging and podcasting throughout the entire year. You can't get rid of me that easily. Except, of course, December. I'm not a writer in December. Everyone needs a chance to breathe. Thank you for tuning in. Let me know. We'll have to wait until next January to see if I had 2021 foresight. Okay, sorry, cracking myself up. Let me know in the comments below. Do you have any goals for 2021? What does your plan look like? And, do you like to make resolutions? Did you build in flexibility? And do you like to make your goals smart, quote unquote? Let me know. It's always great chatting with you. See you again next week for more writing tips and writerly musings. Bye-bye.